Okay. Tonight's class is going to be about Nuwaupian Ontologists of Time, or the Circle of Time. And I wanted to get into this subject because I notice very few people really get into it or even attempt to even talk about it. This is an actual fact that a lot of people sleep on, I notice. It has a very similar resemblance to Nine Ball, and that caught my eye a lot. I used to read Nine Ball a lot myself, and I think that this was something that, you know, we as a family should get into and be able to break it down to those who are on the outside, not really knowing, you know, the science behind 9 and science behind 3, the circle of time, and the level of intelligence, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start. We're in the Nuwaupian Ontologists of Time tonight, and I'm going to start from a certain point and just give people a brief rundown exactly of where we're coming from. 3 is a very important number when it comes to us. Number 1, this is on page 4. The digit 3, this is verse 6, the digit 3 is called a number in supreme mathematics of ontology. Like all other numbers, it can have many meanings and represent many things, such as sun, moon, and earth, neuter genders, male and female, gases, liquid and solid, non-ether, 6-ether, and ghost. Because you have to realize when you're looking into the Caucasoid or Higa Hasut culture or religions, you deal with 3s. But in our realms, 3 is a very important number anyway. But for him and his world and religion, it is always something such as Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, so on and so forth. That's how they're trapping us into a spirit force or unseen gas, whereas we have to get outside the unseen gas and just deciding to see it for what it really is. And that's why we have our own triads within our own culture. And going even further, the biggest misconception of that Trinity is that you cannot have or you cannot divide 3 into 1 without separating all 3. That is something my father, Dr.Malachi Z said several times, is that when you confront Christians in their concept of the Trinity, they have a big problem with defining all 3 because they're only defining it by 1 John 5:7. And because they're only defining it by 1 John 5:7, they are confused as to even break it down to anyone else that calls themselves Christian or that Raubat or does not call themselves Christian. So it's the same thing as going into a division problem and taking 3 and trying to divide it into 1, because 3 does not go into 1, 1 goes into 3. And it's a big contradiction of mathematics. That's why their religion does not, that's one way that their religion does not make any sense. And another aspect of the number 3 is going into intelligence of the Hika Hasut or the Caucasoid. And I'm reading into, this was going into page 6. It says, this is at verse 9. So you see 333%, 330% of complete number 1,000. Verse 10, 333% of 1,000 is the Higa Hasut or Caucasian race, the limit of mentality. For original mortals, it is 666, and for the Negroid, it is 999. See, when we as ontologists, or those that deal with facts, break down to our Negroid family and our Negroid tribe, those that may not be Nuwaupian, they will consider it being racist that we are saying the Caucasoid's intelligence only goes so far on the scale of ether, from 3, 6, 9, or 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But it is factual. And how is it factual? You can look at reasoning. the first thing is looking at reasoning and the way that they deal with things in their own school systems. Their intelligence only goes so far. Monitor the way that they deal with things. They deal with things on an animalistic level because they can't reason things out. And you can go through time, and I'm just giving you a brief rundown of how they deal with things as opposed to having to be called the racist. And the fact that we will be called racist by our own people show that we are those that deal with facts, but we are also those that deal with our own sorrow, because our own people cannot accept the facts that my father, Dr. Malachi Z, is presenting to the world. So when you're dealing with explaining the level of intelligence of a Caucasoid to them, they will have a problem with that because, again, they see this Caucasoid as God. So it takes the fact that you knowing that they see it as such, or or they see the white man as deity, or the Caucasoid as deity, or the person of Hayes as deity, that you have to go inside and realize this person has a case of amnesia. They forgot that they were God. And so they see themselves on the same intelligence scale or beneath the Caucasoid scale because of, as we say, believing the hype of the myth of the human beast as being above them. So just looking at everything in the way that they deal with things, on the animalistic nature, on the aggressive, barbaric nature, only people who have a lack of intelligence would do the things that they do over 6,000 year span, or the realm of their existence. So you have a situation where we have to be the ones to define who we are on a mathematical level to our own people. And if we cannot do that, then we are not doing our job. You understand what I'm saying? So now it's to a point where we no longer deal with conjecture. We only deal with facts when it comes to our own people and when it comes to those of the lower level races or the sub-races, meaning going from 9, where we are going from the 9 ether beings when it deals with us as Negroids, and going beneath that to the 8s when you're dealing with the Dravidians, and going with the Asians and the Latinos, and going down into 6 when you're dealing with the Caucasians. So we have to establish the fact that by genetic reasoning and by genetic evidence and dealing with the reasoning of mathematics as well as evidence, that we are the superior race of this planet. And the biggest thing that, as I was going through several weeks ago when we're dealing with music and hip-hop and things of that nature, that our vibrations and our tones are necessary to know. And I'm going into page 9 when it talks about vibrations in F-flat and F-sharp. And I'll be reading from 16 to 20. From FB flat, ether resonant frequency force, resonant echoing, resounding, resonating resonance. 17. Resound equals echo, ring, go on, sounding. Echo equals repeating of sounds by reflection. Close, imitating, repeat as an echo. Sound equals noise, hum, ohm, crash, bang, tone, voice, note, as in tick, tock, boom, bang, sound, light, matter, or manifestation, which vibrates or oscillates, quivers, movement, move outward or collapse inward. Frequent is repetition, frequency. So when you're dealing with vibrations or sounds related to creation, you have to realize that when there was an utterance, because the way my father explained it on the Myths of Egyptian Ma'at, when he dealt with the utterance, when he said that babies, when they make the sound ha 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 ha, they remember that sound or that utterance of creation that we forget. So when we look at babies and we hear the gibberish, or the gibberish that they make, they're still connected to that etheric chord when they make certain sounds. So in Islam, when they say El Khalik, which means a creator, that's taken from Khnum, who is the fashioner or the shaper of bodies. So anytime you hear or sound of a baby making a certain sound, that's them still making a connection to our ancestors, or as we say, their ancestors anyway. It's still ours. So when you hear those sounds, those situations are necessary, and you realize over time that remembrance goes away. You know, that's the problem. It's the same thing with our imaginations. Once you leave 7 years old, that imaginary level leaves you. At a certain point, it's just a maturity level. But there's certain ways that we can get that back without regressing to a baby state. It's just that certain things that you do through time and cognitive development of who you are as non-ether beings, you will progress. But yet, at certain parts of you don't have to leave you. So when you're going further and further into the F sharp, which we use on the land, when we had the Om chant, the one thing you want to take into practice now is that you want to have that F sharp sound around you more. As I said in several classes before, is that my father dealt with sounds. He said sounds and vibrations and tones are so important now to resonate around your entity. Because again, when you see self and when you see others, you see vibration. And if that person is vibrating on a different frequency as you, then it's not going to mix, regardless of who it is. So when you're around wherever you are, whether it be your home or wherever you are of comfort, you have to have certain vibrations around you. The Om chant is necessary. That Om chant is necessary. That is the first original sound, or the sound of the universe, or the sound of Papa. That is that original sound that you need around you at all times. The flat sounds, the high-pitched sounds, the ones that throw our vibration off, try to avoid them as much as possible. He likened it to a piano, where the dark keys was the sharp and the light keys was the flats. And both were necessary, when you dealt with that particular instrument, because again, the piano actually has its origination in the oud. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to take into account that was needed for balancement. All those sounds needed for balancement. But we're going into a point where our vibrations are necessary. The deeper vibrations within ourselves are necessary to be more around. So if by chance you have the Om chants, he is stressing in updates and visitations that my people need to have the Om chants around them more than anything else. R&B or hip-hop needs to be to a lesser degree, and the Om chants need to be to a higher degree. This is still considered to be on a mathematical level, because if you are vibrating on an F sharp level rather than F flat level, you're vibrating on that 9 level, where that F flat level is vibrating on that higher pitches, and those are dealing with the 6s. And I'm going to page 10. This is on verse 21. This is how to determine the right combination of numbers to use on the circle. That is, the digits must be single and consecutive and must add up to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 6. I'll go back. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equals 7, 72, and 7 plus 2 equals 9, 9. And the digits must divide the circle into 12 equal parts, like Pond and Delta for Negroids, and the zodiac for Caucasoid, because the digits 1 and 2 are left out in order for the circle to add up to 9, 9, 9, 9. Verse 22. A circle must add up to 9 because a perfect circle is 9 by nature. Evolution starts at G6, 6. 6 on the left side of the circle of time and goes counterclockwise through 5 and 4 and ends in 3. So imagine, if you will, you take a clock and Usually when you look at a clock, you know, at the top it starts at 12, at the bottom it starts at 6. But go within your mind now, go within your subconscious, and imagine taking the 12 away at the top and taking a 9 and putting that 9 to the top and going clockwise down. Go clockwise down and go to your right side. From 9, you're going where 1 would be, you're taking an 8. And where 2 would be, you're taking a 7. That's where you would put the 7. And where the 3 would be, you're putting a 6, which is showing where at the bottom, rather than it being a 6, it will be a 3. So when you're dealing with us as progressive beings, on the right side, you would start at 3, which would be the evolutionary cycle. And so you would start at 3 on that right side, and you will go up as a right arch from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 on that right side, to 7 to 8 to 9. And that is our circle of time up to 9. It will start at 3, and that middle point would be 6, which would be the evolutionary phase or the evolutionary start of the Caucasian race or the Higa Hasut. And then it will continue to keep progressing spiritually and physically to 7 to 8 to 9, which is where we are, and as us as 9 ether beings. But when you're dealing with them on a regressive level, you would take the same chart, the same circle, and you would take that 3, keep that 3 where it is, and you would go to the left side where 7 would usually be, you put a 4. Where the 8 would usually be, you would put a 5. And where that 9 would usually be, on your left side to the middle, you would put a 6. It's like a pendulum. Understand it is like a pendulum where it switches from 3 to 6. You understand? And they spiritually dissipate. When they die, there's no transition for them. It's dissipation. So when you're looking at 2 circles, you can use both in your mind, or you can just have 2 circles. One for the right side for us, having a pendulum that's going upwise from 6, 7, 8, from 3 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. And then you're going for the left side for them, which starts at the bottom of the circle of time to 3 again. But for them, it's different. It's going from 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 on that left side. And that is showing you that we are vibrating on 2 different tones. We don't vibrate on their resonance. We're not supposed to vibrate on their resonance. And the way we are starting to vibrate on a resonance by trying to be like him, our society or our African people are starting to try to go back to resonating like them, because the spell was lifted. The spell was lifted. But a lot of us, it's the same sense as slavery being over, and a lot of slaves want to go back to the master because they've been under bondage for so long they have no idea what to do. So they don't have any balancement. And the non-ether beings of us, or Nuwaupu, is supposed to bring them where they're supposed to be, back to balancement. And so you have a lot of them, because they have no balancement, they're running back to what they did before. You know, it's very little. They oppose very little resistance to facts at this point, but it's up to us to get them away from resonating on their pitch or their vibration. You understand? So we'll be progressing even further. And when you look at Hu, Hika, and Sia, these are 3 deities. And I have to use a deity for lack of a better word, but they're not even at the level of deity. They're above that. They are what we will call entities that work on sound. When you say Hu, Hika, and Sia, and not even saying Hu-He, because Hu-He makes them manifest onto three physical beings. You understand what I'm saying? We're going with Hu-He. We're going to Hu, Hika, and Sia. We're going with resonance and energy. All 3 of these had a specific job. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with who, or the creative source of will, because again, vibrations are necessary, and vibrations are necessary to overstand, because when you're dealing with who, as it says in page 12, down to 25, it says it personifies the authority of a word, tone, sound of command, who is being the tongue of Ta. So when you're dealing with Ta, you're dealing with, understand that his utterance, or what he said, was who. He was one of the creator deities. And once he made a specific sound, that was the sound that he made. It was a specific tone. So we're going from who, Hika, and Sia. These were tones that were said at different points in time for creation in the universe, whether it be for us or whether it be for different points in time for the universe, or the balanced universes. You understand? So we'll still be progressing even further. When you're dealing with the problem that we face today, the devil that we face today, that's the most strongest devil that we face, is the one that abodes within ourselves, or the lower abode. The 9 principles that exist within you, or the helix or kundalini, we usually resonate on the lowest level, 1, the level of carnal desire, which is similar to the 7 chakras. We as Negroids now are usually dealing with 1. And the Caucasian, or Hika Hasud, has got us on that level. They are lower level or lower abode beings, or demons. And we are now, again, resonating on their level, and we have to get away from that. And I'm at 14, and actually explains even further. 31. So the 6 ether spirit forces can reach up into the first abode, or physical abode, by your emotions, your actions, feelings, modes, your desires, greeds, sexual habits, hungers, anger, ego, pride, hates, and all these are ruled by fears. It opens you up to surrender yourself to outside forces. Just as blind faith believes religious teachings based on faith leads to fear God, Allah. Trust men who claim the books they call holy from a Holy Ghost is all based on be careful what you do, or you will end up in a lower abode they call hell. There you will be tortured forever. By what? Fire. The same fire by their God Allah, who was the burning bush that revealed the law to man of the Levite tribe they call Moses, or child, in their Bible, Exodus chapter 3, verse 2, Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 16, Acts chapter 7, verse 30, Leviticus chapter 10, verse 2, Isaiah chapter 66, verse 15, Isaiah chapter 3, verse 11, and Luke chapter 3, verse 16. We still, as Africans, have to get out of seeing haze or fog or beast as God or deity. And once we get out of that, that is the first step, getting back to 9, or getting back from 3 on that right side to the circle of time back to 9. Once we are able to do that, then we become God. We have to and part of it is, it's not just about picking up books, picking up papyrus, and picking up patrak and saying that you're there. You have to see deity of self officially. That means you have to clean out, and it sounds crazy, but you have to clean out the subconscious mind, because you have to consume self with love of self. The problem is a lot of us take on this science or this way of life, Wu-Nuwaupu, Nuwaupu, or Wu-Nuwaupu, and it's just taken on with the same mentality that we left Christianity with. That's not going to cut it anymore. You have to be consumed by this. If you're not being consumed by a love of self, you go right back to that. That goes back to, again, still combining your language with right knowledge at all times and being among self and kind. And going into page 17, verse 35, the main purpose for revealing this circle of time and existence in these metats or papyrus is to demonstrate the position of three and reveal its true identity in the spiritual and physical worlds of the living and its relation to the dead, to the Hiket Chasut Kursi of Kifa Canon or Caucasoids. You understand? So, anytime you saw the Hu sign, you saw 9. You follow? So anytime you, again, dealt with Ta or the utterance of Hu, he uttered 9. And there you manifested. Or there the universe manifested. Because anything in the universe is eternal. It's constantly evolving and revolving and creating self. That is a mentality that we have to have, and that we have to deal with things on that level as such. And I'm going to page 18. And this is down in 36. And it's explaining the religions that we deal with, which are dealings of fire. And matter of fact, I'm going to go even further up to the first part. I'm going to go to the middle, but I'm going to go to just to give you a specific understanding of where I'm coming from. Each of the three claim believe in and have faith in an unseen God, Allah, an above spirit being who spoke to Moses as a fire in a burning bush. In their own Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 4, the Lord Yahweh talked with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. Then, in the same book, chapter, verse 24 and 25 and 26, and both Christians and Muslims base their religions on this same deity who spoke with Moses, be he called Jehovah or Allah. He is the same fire deity, and fire needs substance to burn. It needs some form of material or matter. Ibrahim was from Ur of Chaldea. Ur in Hebrew means fire or flames. From Online Bible Strongs, number 5784, Ur. From Online Hebrew Strongs, number 217, or meaning fire, flame, fire, which is really Iran or Persia. The religion there was Zoroastrian. They worship fire according to Zoroastrian faith and philosophy by Dr. Bahram Varsa. And I'm going further down. And how Abraham is the father of Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism, as born in Persia, or if he ever existed, there have on records of him in their Bible, Quran, no real proof he ever existed. As you find our teachings in Egypt, we existed. So when you're dealing with our people, whether it be Christian, Jew, or Muslim, they have to understand that they are worshiping fire, and it is up to you to take what is on page 18 to understand it yourself, and to get them to understand that these religions that you involve yourself in are worshipers of fire. The same devil that you're trying to avoid, you're still worshiping anyway. What you're trying to avoid burning in, which again is a lack of right knowledge for you to burn in the etheric realm if you're not in the physical realm. That for you to take that form of a contradiction on is a lack of right knowledge and is a form of ignorance. And that needs to be brought upon their minds as well. You understand? So now we are dealing with where we are now, which is the end time. 24,000 year cycle that we are at the last point. And each moment that we exist here, this is November 14th on down to 2013, what we are dealing with between now and December 21st, 2012, as we talked about 2 weeks ago in the HA Hereafter class. We are at a point where we can no longer wait on another point of time. You understand? So we are at the end of 4 6,000 years cycles. You follow? We take, as it says in verse 20, as it says on page 20, 3 24,000 year cycles equals up to 72,000 years. 7 plus 2 equals 9. Now we're back to 9 again, our eternal number. And we have to understand again that we are no longer waiting on 2030. We are at 2013, and if we are still to be waiting on something, then we are not in control of self, and we are not God. So we have to understand that we are at the end time, the end of the fourth situation, because it will be 72,000 years, but we have to add that last 24,000 years to make it 96,009 and 6. You understand? So we have to understand again that we have no more time. There is no time. The hourglass is done. Every moment that you exist, you have to make the necessary steps to get to 9. And the first step that my Father is making our transition, or guiding us into the transition of changing our physical situation, our inside, turning yourself inside out. The first step is your diet. If you are not doing that, then you are not on the course to leaving this planet. Understand? If we are not taking that action now to become less dense, because changing your diet will make you heavier. If you're not ready for that transition, you need to leave. Understand? So now, we are at a point now where we cannot afford to waste time on beings who wish to deal with high-pitched creatures and people who, whether white or black devils, that choose to live on a lower abode. If you have no self-control, then you wish to deal with the lower abodes. We're going to the higher abode, and that's what we choose to do, and that's what we are working on ourselves. If they're not doing that, then all weak beings, regardless of what race you are, will perish. And I'm at page 22 now, and I will read on verse 60. So, in fact, the Trinity referred... go ahead.
Excuse me, brother.
Apologize,
but I was just coming in on you while you were reading. What book is that coming from?
This is Nuwaupian Ontologists of Time.
Okay, that's a new book?
No, that's been out for about 3 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tour. Mm-hmm. No problem. I'm at verse 60 on page 22. So, in fact, the Trinity referred to by the ancients of their masters of their religion was simply non-ether, ghost, six ether, taken from Hu, Si, and Hika. And in time, it was from Atum-Re, Amun-Re, or Atum Tatum, the father of Atun, or Adonai, the mother of Amun, or the Amen, the son, Revelation chapter 3, verse 14, and also became Asar, Acid, Har. A true triad became a false triad, Jehovah, Mary, Jesus, or in El-Islam, Allah, Rahman, or Rahim. I'm at page 24, verse 67, and it's giving more explanation of Ghost. Ghost and his devotees, a Caucasian race, are there in the sense that they exist on the circle at the number 3, and the Caucasians or the Caucasoid race's degree of intelligence is limited by their nature, which is why we only conferred 3 degrees on them in the Masonic halls. As 1 EA, 2 FC, 3 Master Mason. Their limit and by their nature to 333 or 333 of the perfect number 1000 or 33 degrees, or in fact 33 1/3 of 1/3 of the 3 races. 33 1/3 plus 33 1/3 plus 33 1/3, the complete man genetically. So he gets from 3 degrees to honorary, 30 more to civilize him, or 3 plus 30 equals 33. It comes out with the Caucasian race being of the moon cycle. Sun, earth, moon, the lesser reflecting light has none of its own. He was extracted from ghost eyes from the Dravidians and Indians and Phoenicians is what he was called instead of Canaanites. He was cursed with leprosy in his Bible, Genesis chapter 9, verse 25, because of their disobedience to the laws of commandments of Bes as Yahweh of the Elohim, Lord God, called many names, Baal, Jad, God, Lord, Master, Enlil, the moon god. This is on page 26. I'm progressing to 75, and this is talking more about the lower abode. Their true abode is hell, and it's fire, hell's fire, the lowest point below, 3 to 2 to 1 to 0. Cipher. Lucifer, the torchbearer, keeper of the flame of destruction and consumption. Verse 76. The Caucasian race is a feminine race, or feminine, a man turned by his weak nature to love other men. He is feminine, femininity, feminism. He is the feminist. This is traced back to Greece, a name for anal sex, or Rome for oral sex, and France for tongue kissing, the kiss of death. That's why if you refer to the dog scroll, let me give you another point of reference. Referring to the dog scroll, he talks about homosexuality and how you have situations where when we're in prison, regardless of what male you are, people regress to an animalistic nature. And that's why homosexuality rules the prison culture, because these are men who are on a very lower level of self, and they regress back because they lose control of self, no longer self-control, and a lot of them take on that lower level self, and it manifests in the things that they do with other men. So these are things that now are being pushed onto us in the media because of our sense of being impressed upon. So we have to see the diagram, that the diagram for what it is coming from the beast man, to push onto our men, because our men are becoming effeminized from a lower level energy. And if we can't see that, then we become the victims of an effeminized African male. And I'm going into page 27, verse 85 to 87. The Negroid religious teachers of each religion today is a hangover from slavery and a continued product of slavery. Because the slave master, Caucasians and Arabs, by keeping the abused slave pacified with fear of torture and death, or of ghostism, which means teach him the gospel or ghost spell, the spell of the fear of death, books all about the dead, how they killed, how they died. Then the hell or heaven, the ghost spell, spellbind. So this way the slave would never think of becoming violent against the slave master. Verse 86, in short, the Negroid preacher of whichever faith is a product of slavery, and his job is to keep Negroids nonviolent against Caucasians, no matter what they do to them or family members. Trust in their lives, and God we trust. Religion and dead to our own laws and culture and way of life. From our homeland, Africa, we are Africans. You understand? So we have to, again, push back all these situations that are lower level. Christianity is lower level. Islam is lower level. Judaism is lower level. Religion itself is lower level. Religion itself is slavery. Let me finish. Religion itself is slavery. And those that push slavery onto us or continue to keep themselves in slavery are slaves. Whether I don't care what religion you decide to call on, still a slave. But results of slavery. We were forced into these situations. So spiritually, they took us away from what we were, from non-ether beings and having our own culture, our own names, and our own way of life. And so taking on the bondage, when you take on the bondage sense. You're taking on the spirit of what was bondage. So spiritually, it becomes a genetic makeup of our own people. So we lose where we were at 9, and we begin to resonate over time to 6, because we left, or we allowed ourselves to be slaves. We allow ourselves to be subjected to mental slavery over the period of time. Mental slavery is worse than physical slavery, because when a person is in physical slavery, he or she can still know, I need to get out of the situation. But when you are in mental slavery, you accept yourself as being a slave, and you want to see other than self and kind as deity, because you are comfortable in that. You don't want the responsibility of being deity. You want to only lean on the human beast for subsistence. So that is now time to leave the slave mentality alone and get back to 9, on the top of the circle of time or existence. Overstand. So it is now our time to accept that it is our time as non-ether beings or dark matter beings. You understand? We personified from dark matter millions of years ago, and billions of years ago, before we was even in the physical form. You follow? Every element that exists in this universe exists within you. From hydrogen all the way down to the elemental chart, that is you. You follow? Hydrogen existed or personified in darkness. So the perception of where these Caucasian or 6 ether beings has the deception on our people that light is right or God is right. God is synonymous with light, so that would make light right, and it will make white right. But you have no white or light or God, because it's all energy. Light doesn't exist. White doesn't exist. These are all deceptions based on perception. Perception, deception. And so when you do not see it for what it is, then you will constantly be deceived based on what you don't know that you are conceiving. And because you don't know what you are perceiving something as, because of a lack of knowledge of self and a lack of right knowledge, then you will stuck in ignorant state being able to see God as being light. That's what the religious world wants you to see, because explain to me how you have no light bulb inside your head. That is a concept that was created by the white man, or the beast man, I should say, because there is no white man, there is no white inside of him, only colors and boils and spots. Okay? Now, that concept of a light bulb going off gives us the perception that something inside of us is white coming off when we have an intelligent idea. But in reality, what manifests in our brains is still within darkness. Intelligence exists or manifests within darkness. When something is created outside of, it's created within darkness and manifests itself. So that is what? Right knowledge. That is right reasoning. You follow? And that is experienced within itself, because, again, when you walk into a room, and everyone knows this, when you walk into a room and you cut on that light, that is still darkness. When you turn off the light, you are still in darkness. We have allowed ourselves to be defined by incandescent perceptions, because all they are energies flickering at different points of time. You understand? But we have to get away from seeing things from a haze point. When I say we, I'm saying Africans as a whole, not just the Nuwaupians, because our spell has been broken, but it's up to us as deity to get those that are African to realize that no, darkness is real, and you are darkness. You understand? And you exist within darkness, and you exist within dark matter because you are dark matter. You go back further than Adam and Eve, when there was only dark matter or Atum-Re. the feminine son that was here. And if you are able to do that and raise them from that sarcophagus up out the muck and mire, then that leaves both of you, the duality of both being God. You understand what I'm saying? That is our responsibility now, is to understand where we reside on that circle of time, is that we reside at the top and the beast somewhere in the middle, because he is still evolving. You understand? He still has corrections. But he is still what we consider something that is alien to this planet, and he is trying to find a way to stay here. And eventually, because of the perception of where we're going based upon this earth and within our own bodies, because we are making our own transition, that he will dissipate, and he will go back into the caves where he belongs. As my father says, evil invaders go back home. You understand? Be taking a couple of questions before we wrap it up.
Brother, I need understanding on where can we get books. Do I have to just call the Nuwaupian store there, or is there a way we can access books so I can get that book? Or
there are websites that carry Nuwaupian Ontologists of Time. I don't have it specifically now myself, but there are websites that specifically carry, I think, Wu-Nuwaupu online. They carry Nuwaupian Ontologists of Time. It should be Meta, I think, 15, and that's the one you should get to really get down and study this one. It's very, like I said earlier in the class, I think you missed it, it's the resemblance of Nine Ball. It has a good resemblance to Nine Ball.
All right, cool.
Mm-hmm. 2 more questions.
Y'all can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you were saying like 3 degrees of light and all that.
Yes.
What's the difference between that and the amber light, like the Illuminati?
The amber light and the light of Illuminati?
Yeah, because you know it's like 2 lights, the green light and the amber light.
Uh-huh.
So what does that have to do with like the 3 degrees?
You're asking a question of amber light. The amber light is dealing with the Luciferians, and the green light is dealing with us as non-ether beings. So those are 2 lights. The greater light will be us based on non-ether beings with energy. When you're saying non-ether beings based upon the pure green, that's dealing with pure green, vitality, vegetation, and growth. When you're dealing with the amber light, it's just dealing with a certain color. You understand what I'm saying? It's not a difference in terms of what I was talking about with the 3s, but when you're dealing with the non-ether, you're dealing with what's called, again, vitality and growth, and I must stress this. But the amber light is just a lesser light because it was created of the smokeless fire in a different cycle of existence. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with Illuminati and things like that, again, as I said several months ago, you have 2 forms of Illuminati. You have us as non-ether beings, those that were holding it when we were in the Freemasonic school, because it was, again, the Freemasonic school was just a school of thought. That's why he stressed it was just one form. It was 2 forms of Illuminati, those that were informing our Prince Hall brothers to leave that form of Freemasonry, Prince Hall, and the other Illuminati that had their direct ascendancy back to the Rothschilds and the Westphals, which go back to the Zionist movement. And they will be connected to the impure amber light beings, the 6 ether beings. You understand?